no value on the money line there for picking the Eagles, obviously, to win the game. There's a big spread in this one. How do you bet a big spread in the NFL, especially this one with the Eagles and the Jets? The Jets are on their third quarterback now. And to talk more about this line and how to bet this game, Kyle Scott from CrossingBroad.com is back as the Eagles, depending on where you're looking, Kyle, it's up to 14.5. That's a big number in the NFL.
It's getting pretty high. We have some certainty now knowing the quarterback situation for the Jets, so I actually think that makes it a little bit easier to bet because it was hovering in that weird 13-point range, the last couple of days with the cloud of uncertainty up there. So this at least, gives you some confidence when you put your money down.
Obviously, you get it to 2 touchdowns, and depending on where you are, it's two touchdowns and then a half there. We've seen some big spreads this year. Most of them involved the Dolphins. The Jets were a part of one too, but any more with these bad teams that are kind of quote-unquote, tanking or not really caring about winning too much, does this big spread bother you as much as it used to? Should it bother you?
I don't think, no, it doesn't bother me, especially not for the right team. But in this case, it certainly feels like a situation where the line is telling you something, given that we haven't seen a complete effort from the Eagles, and yet they're still given 2 touchdowns. That said, we haven't seen a complete effort from the Eagles. They've had 10 days off now. So that's probably doesn't bode well for their problem with slow starts. And then you got a game against the Vikings and Cowboys coming up. So this has a little bit of a trap game element to it. So the big number scares me, while at the same time, maybe, tells the fan in me to just calm down because they're a heck of a whole lot better than the Jets, who are a complete mess.
Yeah, Eagles 3-3 straight up when favored by at least 13.5 points going back to 2004. What are some of the other numbers and trends in this game that our listeners should know about? Because I think a lot of people are intrigued. The Eagles at home, the Jets on the third quarterback. I think a lot of people want to bet this game.
Yeah, all right, so here's some working in the Eagles' favor for sure. Nothing too shocking here. Teams favored by 10 or more, 6-0 this season. Straight up, 38-6 the last 2 seasons, 68-10 the last 3 seasons, 87% win percentage there. So the Eagles are going to win the game. Teams with at least 10 days off, being favored by double digits, are 9-4 against the spread in the month of October. So teams in this situation do pretty well against the spread with a big number, even with the days off. So that works in the Eagles' favor. But then I look at the line, and what's odd to me is it's such a big number with a low total, right? So if you kind of got to pick one. It's either going to be the Eagles are going to cover, or it's going to be the under, and it's going to kind of be difficult to be both, to win by 2 touchdowns and still keep the total under down to 43.5 at some places now. The most likely outcome when you look at like in-game parlays, spread and total, is definitely on the Jets to cover and the under. That FanDuel's offering that to you, I think, at like plus 210. So that's the best combination of things. So if you like the total better and you like the low-scoring game, then maybe you lean with a Jets cover. If you think it's going to be a little higher scoring, which no one really feels that way, then maybe you lean with the Eagles to cover. I personally look at it and say this is one of those games where if the Eagles can get a lead, they're going to run the ball a lot. Jets don't have the ability to put up points. The Eagles will win the game, but it might be kind of a low-scoring, relative slop fest, while they try not to expose Carson Wentz too much. You don't have Deshaun Jackson, just kind of one of those survive and get through this type of games and not worry about hanging a giant crooked number on them.
See, that's the problem, Kyle, right? Is that we're supposed to separate emotions, per se, from our better gambling judgment. But we've seen, going back to last year, even in the Washington game this year, where what should be isn't always, or it takes a little bit longer to develop, like in the Washington game. So I'm a fan of kind of, and Ryan Rothstein put me onto this, those game props where you pick the home team to win by, in this case, it would be 18-23 or
winning
24-29. Yeah, winning margin prop bet. And my only problem is trying to figure out which one in this game I like more, 18-23 or 24-29. And even if you want to go, say, 13-17, right? I mean, you could drop a few on each one and make out in the end. I think that's probably the best way to do it if you want to make a little money, but knowing that you're going to have to lose a little money in doing so.
Yeah, I mean, they're a fun way to go. I personally don't love it on this game because,
Right.
it can when you're dealing with the probability of it being such a big line. So consider this. If they're a 3 to 5 point favorite, right? You can kind of safely feel good about that 1 to 6, 1 to 7 point winning margin. But when you get into these big numbers, now all of a sudden, like, they can move by 3 touchdowns, and that might take you across 3 of those brackets. And like you said, it's almost like a roulette table. You kind of got to just spread your chips and cover as many of those corners as you can, right? So it kind of reduces your margin there. I don't know. My gut, going back to the fan thing, it's like, the Eagles should blow them out, but I keep coming back to the fact that they haven't put together a complete effort. They start slow. They've had 10 days off. They still don't have Deshaun Jackson. I think they're going to win. Just might be one of those situations where the Jets aren't going to put up a lot of points. The Eagles can get a 10-point lead and just run the ball, and you wind up with one of those sort of ugly, 20-6 games, something goofy like that, and it gets you right there on 14 points. And then, depending on when you got in, then now you're pushing or giving the chips back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Eagles, I saw when they're 12-point favorites or greater, they're like 4-6 in the past 10 years. So if you're a fan of the Eagles, it's really tough, I think, to lay this amount of points because, like you said, the Eagles have struggled early on, and even if they do jump out to a big lead, you have to imagine that they're going to take their foot off the gas, ideally, sooner than later, and you can always, you're always prone to like a backdoor cover at that point. So for this game, I like focusing on the prop bets with you. What do you see from total passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns? If you go over to the props and player props, is there anything that stands out to you there?
Yeah, I really like some of the Jordan Howard props in this one. Again, it kind of goes back to my thesis. All these are sort of based on your own personal thesis for the game, but if it's going to be a little lower scoring, you're going to have to eat up some clock. I think we saw last week that Jordan Howard is still a very good running back, and maybe we're going to start dialing back Miles Sanders just a little bit or getting a little more balance in there. So I like Jordan Howard to rush for 75 yards and the Eagles to win. That combo, that's at plus 290. You got a couple of others. Jordan Howard rushing attempts. I like the over 12. Jordan Howard to score a touchdown and the Eagles to win plus 150. Stuff like that. I feel like sort of fits into where you're going to be, even if it is a big number. And it does wind up being a blowout. Then you're really going to run the ball. So all the Jordan Howard props, I'm all over. The other one I kind of like is Nelson Aguilar. 50-plus yards receiving and the Eagles to win. That's only plus 122. We figure without Deshaun Jackson, they might be good for 1 or 2 big plays, and they do seem to go to Aguilar. Wentz has a little bit of a deep connection with him, and especially without D-Jack, he's got a little bit of speed over the top. At home, you figure they'll take a couple of shots early at least.
One more I like, too, just to throw it out there. Luke Falk over 0.5 interceptions at minus 134. You got to think that Luke's going to throw a pick.
It's 0.5. I didn't even see that. 0.5?
0.5, dude. Minus 134 money line.
Excuse me, guys. I got to go place a bet.
Come on,
I'll be right
let's
back.
just all clear out our accounts and put our money together with that one.
Yeah, it's effectively free money. I'm going to hop on that if I can find it.
There you go.
All right.
Last thing is, I got one more for you if you want it.
Yeah, man.
Always.
I always like, so for the game, I always like to look at the projected win percentage, like a site like 538, and they've been lower on the Eagles all week. So before we had the quarterback news, they only had the line at minus 10, 10.5. Even after that, they've only moved it to minus 11.5, and they give the Eagles an 84% win probability. Obviously, still very high. But when you look at the money line on this, like minus 1,100 now or whatever it is, that's implied at 91.7%. So the Eagles are definitely overpriced on the money line for sure. Not that you're betting the money line in this game, but there's like 2.5 point difference between the projections all week and then what the books are offering on the spread. So I don't know exactly what that tells you, but it does tell me that they're not that much of a value bet. So there is more value in betting on the Jets, as much as I want to scratch my tongue out after saying that.
Yeah, I think the question on that is, what is 538? What algorithm are they using that it's actually not a bigger percentage for the Eagles to win? I mean, we've sat here all day long, actually all week long, and tried to figure out any single area we think the Jets could exploit from the Eagles in this game. Even the corners for the Eagles are only exploitable if your quarterback can step back and throw the ball.
Well, for them, for them, 84% is really high. It's actually the second highest on the slate behind New England and Washington. So, it's still a very high number they give them. But, they're about 2 points more bearish on the spread in this. And, I really like, they use the ELO method, ELO, whatever it's called, where they do repeated series of head-to-head matchups to determine a most reasonable scenario. So I find that it tends to be pretty accurate in spotting some value on the line.
Kyle Scott, Crossing Broad, and they've got their weekend betting piece up right now. If you want to get some insight on that 4:30 baseball game, they got some trends for the Braves and the Dodgers. Check that out. Also Notre Dame football and some more NFL action. Check it out right now on our website, 973ESPN.com. All right, Kyle, thanks, pal.
Thanks, man. See you.